Let me give you a couple of things on why we really need to look at the economy and be prepared for what is coming. I feel like my job is to warn you of the things that are coming. When I can, give you ways to navigate around, but at least so you can hear the warning and decide yourself what you're going to do with that. Right now, it's a weird thing. Millennials now, for the first time, can afford home ownership. But there's a problem. There's not enough houses to go around that are starter houses. So 30 and 34-year-olds are getting into buying their homes. Increasing numbers of between 25 and 29 are buying their first homes. And the issue is there's no homes being built right now. There's a shortage of builders. There's a shortage of homes, not builders, but building supplies. I don't know if you've been following the price of wood, but just trying to buy plywood has gone from, $13 to now $54. And I've seen in parts of the country plywood as high as $90 a sheet. It's plywood. We're trying to build a shelf in our house and tried to order some wood, and they said, well, it's going to be a while. And I'm like, I'm not asking for fancy wood. And they said, yeah, but you want hardwood. And I said, yeah, but it could be any hardwood. Still going to be a while. There's a shortage of hardwood. I mean, it is, if you're building a house right now, if you're getting a loan to build the house, buy all of the supplies now. I mean, you're risking because, you know, you're buying in advance, and some people are saying, hey, the price is going to go down. What makes you think that? Well, it always does. Oh, really? Well, it always hasn't been like this either. It's never been like this. All of the things going on around the world. So people are buying homes, and now they can't afford the home because there's a shortage of them. Speaking of shortages, more food shortages are on the way. That is because as the COVID crisis heated up, the demand for meat increased. Grocers had to place limits on the quantities that consumers could purchase. Remember this about a year ago? Now analysts are predicting that a shortage of pork could send the hot dog and bacon prices soaring if it can be found at all in the stores. The pork shortage comes now as many states are easing up on their COVID restrictions, dropping the mask mandates and opening restaurants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have an increase of prices of any kind of pork products. Chlorine to treat swimming pools, that price is skyrocketing. It's running out at some stores. Some pool technicians who use it can't even get their hands on it. Swimming pool technicians are working 6 and 7 days a week because they can't keep up with it because of chlorine. But one of the chlorine plants, in fact, the largest chlorine plant in the country, is creating, some of the problems. You try to get somebody to work there, you can't pay them enough. With the storms that we have had, the weather that we had here in Texas, that is hurting it. That's also hurting styrofoam. If you're blowing insulation into your house and it's the styrofoam kind of the foam, listen to this one. I don't know if you heard this, Stu, but Chevron was promised by the state that they would never have a power outage. Now, would you believe the state if they told you it's a 100% guarantee that we will never have a power outage?
No, I would not.
I wouldn't
take
either.
Precautions on my own side, I think.
Now, maybe if I'm somebody who's just, cooking in my house and I'm like, okay, but I'm getting an electric stove, you'll never have a power outage. Okay, maybe I believe them, and then I'm inconvenienced for a while. But if I'm building a $1 billion industry, a $1 billion structure, and it's making styrofoam, and if the power goes out, everything sets and congeals, and now the plant is useless. I think I get a backup generator.
Yeah.
You know, I think I don't roll that dice. So now styrofoam, that will be any kind of styrofoam, anything that is like that. The biggest maker of that, the plant is down. And Chevron has come out and said they're working on a plan to be able to reopen and fulfill some orders. But they don't know what that plan is yet. So anybody who had an order in for this stuff, they canceled all orders and said reapply and we'll try to get you a price and a time. So everything is skyrocketing. At the same time, jobs are coming back and you can't hire anybody because you're not paying them enough. Wait a minute. Really? Look at the unemployment numbers. There's a problem getting people to go back to work? Yeah, because basically your unemployment now, because of Biden, you can make about $20 an hour on unemployment insurance. So if you're working an average 40-hour week, you're making, $20 an hour. Well, why would I go take a job that's going to pay me 9, 13, hell, even 15? Why would I take that job? I'm losing $5 an hour? I don't think so. All of these things that are happening, are, in my view, a way to accelerate the universal basic income idea. All of these problems, with an exception of the Chevron plant, well, no, even that one was man-made. That was stupid. But all of these problems are coming because of our policies. And I told you years ago, there's going to come a time where in this place where it's a giant crunch of the industrial revolution, except now it's the technological revolution, it's AI revolution, it's the robotic revolution, and there's going to be fewer and fewer jobs for people to do. And so the argument is universal basic income. And we did a show on it years ago because I said, look, you have to start thinking about these things now because truck drivers are going to lose their jobs. And there's going to be huge unemployment. And, high tech will be deemed a bad guy. Government will be deemed a bad guy because they won't have a way out. So what are you going to do? And when it hits, it's going to be horrible. Well, I think that they are moving us into not working as a result of this COVID nonsense. And COVID is real. The vaccines are real. I'm not a science denier or anything else. I just think this has been used for other purposes. Have you read the story, Stu, of these business people that can't hire anybody? I mean, at all. Yeah,
there's a piece in the Dispatch today about that, talking about, for example, one diner owner in Ohio. The diner's now, of course, going out of business. It's owned by the Andersons. They talk about how a line cook at Dale's Diner starts at $11 an hour, up $2 an hour over what it was before the pandemic. So they've already gone from $9 to $11 an hour. According to the owner, that's $440 a week or $760 a month, roughly $21K a year, not including overtime or business. It's a starter job, right? But they're paying $11 an hour, $21K a year. But pandemic-driven unemployment often pays more, sometimes far more. In Ohio, according to data from the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, the state provided weekly unemployment benefits that averaged $340. Add that to the unemployment supplements from the federal government, which have ranged between $300 and $600 per week, depending on which COVID law funded them. And you have some workers paid between $640 and $940 per week to stay home, Jeez. Between $33,000 and almost $50,000 on an annualized basis. So if you're a person who's looking at a job for a dishwasher, and your argument is, do I work a full week for $440, or do I stay home for a minimum of $640 and maybe up to $940? What decision are you going to make? And the guy who owns the diner says that he would normally get, he would put out, a call for a new job, and he would get anywhere from 6 to 12 applications in the first week or whatever, and we get to take our pick. We'll get to pick the best of the bunch. Within the last couple of months, we don't even get a call when he posts a job.
There's a story in the New York Post that's very similar to this. They're talking about a law firm, that is offering $40,000 for just being an assistant, an executive assistant. $40,000 is starting pay. They said that they are getting calls and applications, but when they call them back and say, "Hey, we saw your application. We'd love to have you come in for an interview," they're not getting even callbacks. And this law firm said it's because they're just fulfilling their unemployment, obligation. Have you filed for any jobs? You've been out looking for a job? Yep, I've sent my applications out. They're not even returning the phone calls. I mean, we are in such a bad place. And here's what's happening at the same time. Did you see the Taco Bell in New York City?
I've seen lots of Taco Bells in New York City. Frankly, we used to work there, so I was there all the time. Yeah.
Right. There's a new one that has no order takers. It's all automated. Okay. The entire Taco Bell is automated. So you have some people working, there to keep the machines and keep things moving, but they've cut the staff by more than half. Okay. So now these companies are having a hard time filling those jobs. And at the same time, technology is able to replace those jobs. Those jobs aren't coming. They're not coming back. They're not coming back. Also, in Houston, I think it's Pizza Hut just introduced the first robotic driverless delivery service. So you order a pizza, and it's on a trial basis now. You have to opt in on it. But you call for a pizza, you give the order, you pay for it. They give you a code. Within 30 minutes, this robot pulls up in your driveway. You go out, you put the code into the side of it. The side of this thing opens up, and there's your pizza. And it's still warm because this thing has been made to keep food warm, and the pizza isn't upside down. There goes all of the pizza delivery entry jobs. I mean, we are creating this perfect storm right now where universal basic income is going to be embraced by people because they don't want to work anymore. And then if they did, they can't get a job.
That's incredible. I mean, it's all lining up to that same thing. I mean, and it's Andrew Yang's dream world here.
Yeah, and let me tell you this. The problem with all of this is if you can't get starter and entry-level jobs, how do you find others? How do you replace people? This is what Clear Channel did back in the 90s. They just fired all of these young people because the business wasn't viable anymore. So they fired all the weekenders and everybody else. Well, now there's nobody in the industry that's coming up in the industry. And so now you have this almost impossible thing to fill the jobs because you don't have any starter entry-level jobs. How do you grow the next talent? It's just this nasty cycle that we are beginning, and we're watching it unfold right in front of us.